everyone. This is Liz from Augusta. I'm hopping on today to just talk to you about building teams, failure, and how I failed at Command Center and how you fail your way to the top. There are many of us that start businesses, have no clue what we're doing, and over time, it takes time to get better at your job, to grow your business, and what takes you from 0 to a million will take one kind of style of training and leading. What takes you from 1 million to 10 million will also take you to a different way. You have to change your level of professionalism. You have to change yourself, and you have to go to a different level in your personal training to be able to lead teams and grow teams. So I am COO of Augusta Lawn Care Services. I'm in my 3rd year of running Command Center, which is where we answer the phones, do emails, QuickBooks, payroll, P4P, and on, anything that an office staff person would do for a company. We remove the need for the franchisee to be able to run their business, be out in the field, and communicate with us as if we were their office staff. And I bring team members in and train them from little to none experience, some of them, but mostly it is people that have been in the industry for 8-10 years. They've worked in call centers. They've had very few in the lawn care industry, and so they've had to be coached on the actual process of lawn care industry. However, anyone can be taught anything if they have the right attitude, the right approach, they have the personal will to grow personally and take that extra effort to grow in themselves and to bring that person who is changing and getting better to work. So 3 years ago, we started Command Center. It was my assistant, Lonnie, had left my office so that I could run that solo as the general manager. And then she came over to start Command Center. It was her and one franchisee that she worked with, and very rudimentary systems because we were starting from nothing. I was not involved at all. I was still running the crews and running our shop with all the team members, the guys at the other location, our corporate location, our kind of guinea pig for all of the franchisees, where we test things, try, fail, and get better and implement into our team all the things that we're learning. Our software that we used was very, very simple, but it was something that we then, as we grew our team, had to transition into Service Autopilot, which Mike and I learned what didn't work for us. We created workarounds, and we took that simple, it was more simple then, and they were in the midst of growing, just like we're growing Copilot now. Mike and I were some of the people that were in I know that we have franchisees that have been in longer than us from the very beginning and went to Service Autopilot meetings and meetups and just a very small group. And then as they grew, we used their software. We put suggestions in, which they implemented later, and we appreciate that. As in that software, you transition over time, your needs change as a company. So I came over after Command Center had been running for a little bit, and it was my job to take over. So as we've grown, we've had 3 spring season. We're in the middle of our 3rd, and I knew nothing. I've never run a call center. Before I came to Augusta, I was in the medical field. Before that, I owned a janitorial business. I also owned an in-home care business where I took care of one couple and hired staff. I had never done that either. Ran staff and a group of CNAs, LPNs, RNs, and then worked with naturopath doctors, chiropractors, etc., to build a care plan, a 24-hour care plan for people with Parkinson's. And I immersed myself in Parkinson's and how it affects the patient, all the medications. So in every industry I've been in, I've started from scratch without schooling in that in that field, but immerse myself in any kind of learning, books, courses, classes, anything I could to make me a better servant to the customer, which was my customers in the janitorial business. Back then, I ordered videos and learned how to professionally wash windows, do new construction cleaning as well as residential cleaning, to try to be better than what we call today the chuck in the truck, and to set myself apart and build my business, which I did, and then handed that off to others as I started to be in the in-home care industry. Everything you do transitions into something else. Every skill that you have, you will use later. If you have an education, that will benefit you, hopefully. And the biggest thing is learning to learn, that you learn in school. And some folks have an education, but they would never be able to do the common sense, the boots on the ground, the scrappy work and the grinding that it takes to build a business, which you all know well if you're a small business owner, which is typically what listens to my channel. So as we started to grow the franchise, we also have business owners. We're building the franchise from scratch. We're learning, growing, changing our style of training, how we train, and where we've come today is so different, 100% different in our training. So as I said before, you will fail your way to the top. You have a lot of failures. You implement something, you back off after you've done that process or procedure, and you see where you can get better and implement better things for your team, better training, systems, procedures. And what Mike did was document the first 3 years of his business, 0 to, I believe it was 100,000, 300,000, how to grow your business from nothing. As you watch some of those old videos, you'll see how he has transitioned over time, and our style of leadership changes. And as the demand, as our business grows, our revenue grows, it requires more. So the first year we had Command Center, we had Spring Rush, and we used our team as what we call generalist. Everybody answered the phone, everybody did estimates, everybody ran snow crews, and we did not offer some of the deeper level things that we do now. And the franchisees grew with us. So those that the first 10, they took a gamble on Mike, on us, on Augusta, and they've been with us through thick and thin and really the beginnings of all the systems and stuck with us. And we so appreciate them. Someday it'll be worth it all. And those people will be highly blessed and compensated for being with us at the very beginning and being patient with us. So the first year, I don't remember how many people I had, maybe 20. These were people that we made a job ad. I believe we started at $15 an hour, whatever our minimum wage was. And then we tried to go a couple dollars more than that to attract office workers, people that had experience in the office, some that had none. And I brought all these people on to run Command Center, which is nothing like it is today as well. So we had our first Spring Rush and we epically failed. And what I say by that, we did not have a texting platform like we do today to be able to communicate with the franchisees all day. We used what was called Grasshopper, which is an elementary phone system, but it doesn't work for franchisees above 50 for sure. And we had to transition the second year into RingCentral, which is still what we use today because it's a platform that we can grow for years into and continue to use it until we can implement all of those things right into Copilot. So just by sheer volume that we were starting to get with the franchisees, everybody was answering the phone, everybody was doing estimates, as I said, and I was just coming on. So I have to take ownership for our mistakes as the person who was in charge. We grew with the franchise, we grew fast, and as we sold franchises, we had to change and pivot and grow with that. So the second year, I was able to hire, I think it was the second year that I hired virtuals, maybe the third. So the second year, we had so many estimates coming in. We have what we called the call email, where just massive amounts of things came in from all locations. We used regular Gmail, and we worked from the bottom up. So as a franchisee was at the owner was at a property doing estimates, he would click complete. It would come into us, and we would do the estimate, contact forms, instant quotes, which we did not have instant quotes at that time, and Google Leads and such things as that. So as we worked our way from the bottom up, as we would come in the morning, there would be 300 emails, and we would work on those from the bottom up all day long, plus answer the phone. We had to time our phone calls when we were in Grasshopper. So we had timers on the desk. We had to start the timer, time the phone call, and then we had to time the work that we did in their accounts as well. As we've grown over time with the skilled people that I do bring on, and as they've grown with the company, and I give them the leeway to take some responsibility and run, we started to build spreadsheets with drop downs with different types of services that we were doing to be able to give the franchisees today more itemized services that we provide and invoices that are able to just say exactly what we did for them and how many minutes we served in their account. But none of that was the process then. We didn't have all those systems in place. So I had people walk out in frustration. I had people leaving the office and crying. The stress was horrible. And because so many emails were flowing in all day and all these tasks to do, there would be 300 in there. And as we would complete them, they would just keep flowing in. It was completely impossible for all of us to do all of that work from the volume that was coming in. So we have the franchisees that we're working with, as well as all of their customers. And we were just, 25, then 50 franchisees. And into the third year, I knew that I needed more people. We lost money every year, every month. It takes many years, sometimes 5-7 years before you actually start to see a profit. And I remember in the third year when we made actually above zero, $300, and Lonnie and my assistant that had been with me for years, we had a good cry because it was so impactful to us that we had finally made a little bit of profit. As you grow, though, as you grow fast, growth sucks cash. And from then till now, there's been very little profit because we try to keep the prices low for the minutes of the call for the franchisees. So as we went into our third year, my big failure is we did another spring rush, tried to manage it the same way, working in this one email. We were starting to do different departments and offer them to the franchisees because we wanted to give them more services. We did their scheduling, their invoicing, and we hadn't built the systems enough to we let them all kind of do their own thing. We tried to serve them with that. So when we got so overloaded, we had to start simplifying our services. Just as we grow on Mike's channel, we tell people the big projects and all of that, simplify it and grow it then. So if you simplify back down to mowing and you just do mowing, just do cleanups and the simple services, you're able to bring team members in and train them within 2 weeks and have them running your crews, going solo, and being part of your team and actually bringing in revenue within just a couple weeks. And so as we worked with those owners and they were growing, they were maturing, they were making mistakes, we were making mistakes, they would get so frustrated with us and we couldn't get their estimates out quick enough. All of their other services, we were missing phone calls, and I would have people that would finish their shift, not come back tomorrow. I would have people that would go for their lunch break and never come back. And I would be trying to call them, check on them, what's wrong. And so I failed. And Mike and I were running a mountain that we go on every Saturday from like spring to October. And I told him, how can I be better? How can I do better? And he was honest with me and I got very upset. I was crying. I was mad. We usually run separately on the mountain because his skill level is higher than mine. And so I'm hiking up, he's running up. And so as I'm going up the mountain and running back down, I'm just crying. I'm just mad. I'm frustrated. I feel just such aggression and anger that he told me that I failed and that he had told me that I needed to grow, that I needed to be ready for the spring rush. I needed to hire people. And what I had done that year is grow, change, get better. And I decided to hire virtual assistants. And so I put an ad out for the East Coast, which typically in the South, their minimum wage is lower. So I took their minimum wage, added a couple dollars to that, created a job ad that went all in that area. I set up my ad on Indeed and I had 1,200 applicants within 24 hours. And that was just virtual assistants. So I hired 20 and brought them on, all people that were supposed to have experience. Epically failed at that. So I had people that had thick accents from the South that you could hardly understand their dialect. And I did not differentiate between them and anyone else. I figured we're in the US. Everybody would be able to understand them. We were not in Canada. Actually, we were in Canada. We had a couple locations at that time. So I brought these virtuals on, and then I started checking their work. And I would call them myself, or I would hear Google lead calls. And these calls were horrific. Some people just couldn't grasp the whole concepts of what we were doing. They didn't have the skill to be on the phone. And then when they were not on the phone, it just turned out to be that they couldn't do all the work that we had to do, understand what we were doing with the franchisees, and they did not have the skill level to work in a call center. I hadn't required that these people had call center experience. The biggest thing that I found was they were supposed to have their headphones, which I sent them. I paid $300 for these headphones, sent them out to all these people, sent them an Augusta sweatshirt, Augusta shirt, a t-shirt to be part of the team. Took their photos and tried to build some team culture among us all in what we moved to, which was called Connect Team. I needed to move to Connect Team because you can use WhatsApp, Grasshopper, all these other companies for a period of time, but you don't want to give out the employees' cell numbers. You don't want all of these people to see one another's cell phones. So in Connect Team, they can see one another, they can be on a chat, their names, and people can share, but their personal information is not being able to be seen. So that's one of the positive things of Connect Team. So a big thing was that you could hear their kids in the background. They're supposed to be wearing these headphones, but they would be having their TV really loud. Their dogs were there. And I would tell them, I need to see more professionalism from you. In your interview, you told me that you would be able to have a quiet space that you could work for 8 hours. Long story short, that did not work. I tried my best. I'm learning from scratch. I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm trying hard. I'm listening to things to grow myself as a person, leadership. Well, when he told me that I was an epic failure, basically, and that he had asked for 3 things of me and I did not get them done. He wanted virtuals. He wanted that to be successful. He wanted me to grow the softwares that we were in, but mainly he wanted me to grow the team and serve the franchisees to be able to get to what we called inbox zero every day. And when we would get to inbox zero, rarely happened. And that means we were all working 10, 12 hours a day. I'm getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to be there by 5, work out in the morning, be there by 5, and start with the team doing the same thing they were doing. So I was right in the trenches with them, doing estimates, trying to get things out, and I couldn't really take care of the team, really didn't know how to take care of a virtual team. I had to end up firing all of those virtuals. And today, 2.5 years later, I have one of those people left from that. She's an absolute rock star. And the owners in Augusta Nation will recognize her name as Shelly. And she's been phenomenal. I've been able to give her more leadership roles, even as a virtual. Some we tried, some worked, and some did not, working with our local team. So that is what I failed on, was I couldn't get to inbox zero. When we got there, we would ring a bell and I would try to motivate the team again. Everyone was a generalist. We were all trying to do everything. That does not work. And I'm either in my fourth or fifth, I think it's the fourth year to have Spring Rush. So when he told me that, and I was so mad, told him I did the best I could. I had improved so much over the last year, and it was not good enough. I'll just say that. And so I decided that I was not going to fail this year. And so I took a completely different approach. There's a company called Shepherd, and what they do is they help you find qualified candidates in places like we chose the Philippines, and they do all kinds of cultures, and they find people with degrees, call center experience, and you put the items down that you require these people for. And because of their accents, which the franchisees did not want, they only wanted American people just for the accents. They didn't want to get on the call, and we've all experienced where the person does not speak clear English. They don't seem to know anything. They have to keep putting you on hold to go ask their superior what they should do and come back and repeat the same thing to you, go back on hold. We've all heard this, and none of us like that. And we want to talk to someone who can meet our needs. So I went on, Mike did this the first time, and we would interview people together. I just stacked the schedule and did just Google calls, Google Meet, and would interview these people from the Philippines that they would find for us. It was very expensive. And to bring them on, they gave a required rate. So it wasn't like we were offering them a certain amount of money as we do in the US. They have their set prices as a contracted, I can't say employee, they were contractors. And so we brought them on very low wages to us, but a very high wage to them. So some of them have told me since then that what they get paid is 3 times as much as they would make there in the Philippines. And so I've heard massive testimonials for them, people crying in appreciation for the job. Bringing them on, and what I've seen with the difference between the US is a lot of them learned their English and to enunciate and speak clearly from watching American movies. And then they were able to learn the innuendos, the slang, the way Americans talk, so that they could understand the Americans and also talk back to them in clear English. So I hired many of them for this year. So this year I have 29, and these are people that Shepherd found for me. And I've had those people refer other people and brought on what we call affectionately is the Phillies of our team. So the franchisees had concern about that. So did I. So when I spoke with them on their interview via video, I asked what their qualifications were, how many years they had in call centers. They had to have worked for American companies. So a lot of them had worked with Australian companies, which is very close to the Philippines. And some had worked for a lot for T-Mobile and companies like Amazon, doctors' offices, contractors, companies that do deliveries. So they did routing and scheduling for them. A lot of doctors' offices, but T-Mobile was a huge one. Verizon, as it grew, there were some candidates from there. So with this US experience, they were already skilled. So I brought them on, and the positives about them is they're very appreciative. The Philippine People are very kind and considerate and caring. And so that was at our time last year, it was very difficult to find employees, to find people that want to work. And I found the same thing this year. I had a lot of candidates, but they don't want to work and they don't want to get in there and grind with us. And it is not easy to be on the phone. It is not easy to talk to difficult customers. So at this time, we have 150 franchisees and we have many systems in place. So I started building departments and seeing what people's skills are. And what I would say my superpower is I'm able to watch people, watch their talent, and I'm able to put them in positions to succeed and therefore help the franchisees. But all these systems had not grown and matured to where they are today, to where they will be next year. So the positives of this year are what we are allowing the franchisees to say is that their estimates will be to the customer within 24 to 48 hours. Last year, I epically failed at that. We were not getting them out in 48 hours, and that was very frustrating to the franchisees. The other biggest thing is we were missing mass amount of phone calls. So the advantages, the pluses, the growth we've made this year is that we have Max, our Poly AI. We call him Max AI now. And he was also very rudimentary. We built him with the company. We fine-tuned him over time. When you take an AI individual, you have to tweak their voice to sound human and yet not too human to upset the client that they don't know they're virtual. So over time, we've taught him to say that he is a virtual assistant, to be able to pass them on to a human. He detects background noise, and that is how he knows to interrupt or not interrupt. I had clients say that he was rude and talked over them, which we're still working to tweak now because you have to be very cognizant of the background noise for him to be patient. And if the client doesn't talk clearly, if they don't know how to follow prompts, if they're completely fooled by Max, that's a challenge. So I talk to developers every couple weeks. I listen to the calls and see how we can make Max better. Again, this is a huge change for the franchisees. Everything when you start out and you implement something, it's very frustrating. At Augusta, we pivot and change fast and a lot. We want to be ahead of the curve in technology, in programs and platforms, which will come to Copilot in just a moment, as we've added that as well. So most of the franchisees were using also very basic platforms, which I can't think of them all right now, but they needed a change too. So then a lot of them were in Service Autopilot. That became the main platform that we used because that was the best out there. And it was what we were able to build workarounds. And thus, when we trained the franchisees, we were able to implement those workarounds, build our own automations. And we needed to learn all of these things from scratch. Number one, we want to change the professionalism in the landscape industry. And so to be able to do that, we needed to be ahead of the game and build things that no one else ever had. So then when we introduced Max, we were able to guarantee to the customer that the phone will be answered 24 hours a day. Max is the first line of defense. He's the first answer. He gets all the client's information, and then we immediately call back as soon as we get into the office. So he answers the phone at night and after hours, and then we're able to call them back, get the service they wanted, make sure the information that Max gave to them is legit and right. And he has gotten better at taking information over time. We text them. Max texts them immediately to confirm their email address because he had trouble getting that correct. And so they just text back their email address and we're able to contact them and set up service. So Max is what we implemented this year. We've also been using Copilot, which Mike was inspired to do. Over time, we've implemented P4P. That is now integrated into Copilot. And I remember when we talked about Service Autopilot and the changes they needed to make and what they needed to update for us to work effectively to serve our owners and thus serve their customers. It just got to where Service Autopilot was not putting the effort in to continue to grow. So they stagnated, and they're fine for a lot of businesses. They're fine for large businesses, which worked for our franchisees for a while, but we needed to build a software that was innovative, that was beyond, it was thinking ahead to where we need to be to best serve our owners. So we implemented P4P into Copilot. We did a trial run, like a beta testing for those who were, again, brave enough to dive in with us and do beta testing for a year. At that time, this past January, we moved every owner over into Copilot. That's been a huge growing experience. Any software that's being built from scratch, usually when you have a software, I'll just throw this in, it's for one purpose. And then there's a whole bunch of add-ons or sub-services, sub-offerings that are not what the first quality was. Copilot, on the other hand, is trying to integrate all of that stuff, build all of those add-ins as the main thing, and just add on that and give the franchisee, the owner, experience with everything that we didn't have in Service Autopilot and build it the way it's best for our owners. And so all of the owners are now in Copilot, and that's been a huge growing experience. We fail again our way to the top. We made promises to them that we couldn't keep. And so with that, we've hired more and more developers to work out bugs. We've hired more people at Command Center. So the services are getting better and better. Our offerings are getting better and better. We now do every task that could be done in the office. I have many departments, and as people show that they are competent and really good on the phone and learn all those basic services, we like to offer people higher positions, inspiration to be able to listen to audibles and do the deep work personally, to be able to bring a better self to work. And then as their skills grow, I'll take something, for instance, I wanted to build a work log that would have a drop down that we could itemize every franchise service and service offering so that they could see the itemized bill. So we've even created more departments over time to best serve them, and so that they don't have to get office staff. We've had to add services. There are other services we had to take away because we were drowning in work, and it was very difficult for the franchisees right in the middle of the season last year to have to hop in and do their own invoicing and scheduling, which some of them had never done because they were fully dependent on us, which we call full service, and we were doing everything for them. Keep in mind that some franchisees only join because they want Command Center, and they've had to grow with us as we've made mistakes and run their business, and also they're making mistakes. So we're trying to build simple systems that they can follow. So another thing that I've recently added is called Happy Fox. And when you're in an email where you have 60 people working in there, they can trip over each other. They can double grab a task or an item to do. And that causes the time to be double. It causes several of them claim the item. So I've built a system now where they could, in their Google email, be able to have this one email that everything's flowing into. They claim the task, they put it in their folder, they take care of it, and then they archive it. We always work from the bottom up. So I live by Costco, which is a little bit, for those of you in the South, it's like Sam's Club. And you're a member there, and they have great pricing on bulk items. So I live close to that place, and I'm telling you, you can never find a parking place. It's incredibly challenging. You can go there and sit in the parking lot and have an anxiety attack because you're going to go in and deal with all these people. And I use Instacart now because I don't want to deal with the crowds, and it's a waste of time, and time is money. So over time, I would work 14, 16, 18 at times hours a day. When we did snow routes, I would go home and sleep for an hour and a half, get back up, go to the border and check what they needed there, bring the team there, and massive amount of work and grinding to come to where we are today, the positions that I filled, which I will talk about on another episode that brought us up to today. So as I was driving out, I think it was 5 o'clock in the morning, of course, the parking lot's empty. And these hundreds, thousands of customers that went through there every day. There's a car wash, there's a gas station, and still great pricing. We're close to the border. Canadians come down, and there's never a place to park. And you're basically waiting at the parking spot for somebody to back out and steal the place. So I know that this all goes on there. And I'm driving out at 5 a.m. There's zero cars, of course. All I see is the semis that are backed up to the back of their warehouse, which is on the side where I live, and they are all unloading product to help these customers. And I'm thinking, okay, Costco is in many states. It's a huge operation. How do they take orders and fulfill these orders and have their bakery full and all these ingredients that they never run out of and always producing? And there's departments in Costco that you can depend on to stay there for a long time, depending on the demand. And I thought, okay, so there's 150 locations. It's worked up till now, but now my team of 60 people are tripping over each other, and it's not going to work forever. And I have learned that we would just wait till there was a crisis to make a change. And I thought, I want to think bigger than that. There's a company, I believe it was Stripe, that I was listening to one of the Audible books about, like, one of the more advanced ones where it's just a lot of in the weeds and details. And they implemented something with their credit cards when they had only 40 employees. We know how huge Stripe is today. And they said some of those services that they offered in the beginning are still in place today. Those systems, those procedures. And I thought, that's the way I should be thinking. I should be thinking 1,000 locations, something that I can implement right now and I can use when we have 1,000 locations. And so I took one of my skilled staff. I said, find me a program that will work. I want to know what Amazon does, what Google does, what Costco does. Find me a program. And she went through about 100 softwares to see what they could do and what we could use it for. I make decisions fast. And I needed to implement something fast. When you're tripping over each other and you have that many people in there, it starts to affect your culture. And people getting upset with each other, people grabbing items before they even started their shift to be able to get some work done, because we also pay them for P. And if there's not a lot to do and they don't get a lot of tasks, it's hard for them to get P. We charge the franchisees per minute for the tasks that we do. So it's a huge expense to add these things. We don't raise the prices for the franchisees very frequently. We're still losing money. There's still no profit. In order to get good people locally, I had to raise the rates from the 15 to the 22. And some of these people, they're not really ready to make 22. But I needed skilled people that had been in call centers here in the US. And I wanted people that could come in and train people we had to be better. If they had worked at T-Mobile, they were trainers at T-Mobile. I knew they could bring a lot of those skills into what we were doing and be able to make all of their people better. Another thing I did was our training was very rudimentary. I did all the training. Then I had an employee that I knew would be fantastically good at training. He took it over. He made it better. And I brought in somebody this year who is doing other tasks. I asked what they did at their other job. As you hire this many people, you don't remember all their skills. So when I would have one-on-ones, I would say, hey, remind me what you were good at before. This person had done training programs for many people. And so I just cut her loose and she built a system that was even better. I had 2 trainers train all these people in blocks. So I took a local team and I had them train them. Then the next week I had a whole week of virtual training. And then I had another whole week of local training, and then another one of virtual training. And so one by one, week by week, I was not going to fail for this spring season. And so I started in October to have people ready to go in March. And I didn't care if they were twiddling their thumbs once I completely trained them and there was hardly nothing to do. I had max and I wasn't missing a phone call, and I was going to make sure that every franchisee had their estimates within 24 hours. Every day, multiple times a day, now we are at inbox zero. And we don't have inboxes anymore because I switched to Happy Fox, which once they claim an item, it locks with their name and they're able to complete that task. We continue to use Connect Team, and we're able to have the franchisees texting us all day long. Hey, I have to be at so-and-so's property, Miss Smith, in 15 minutes. I'm going to be a little late. Can you call them and tell them I'm on my way? That's the kind of service we offer to the franchisees so that they don't ever have to use their cell phone and communicate with the customer. We've implemented texting in Copilot. So as you can imagine, bringing on the software of Copilot with all the frustration of the franchisees learning that, thank God that our systems were better at Command Center. How we improved is that we're at inbox zero multiple times a day. We're fully in spring season, and I have double the calls that I had last year, over double the calls at this time. We're not missing a single call. Max gets them first. The customer can say, I want to talk to a human. It then comes over to us. So we've implemented all these things, which can be crazy. And so as Copilot grows, we're trying to learn Copilot together. We work closely with their developers and their product department, and they're growing, they're building their team. So that when there's growth, there can be friction. So I've worked very hard on our culture. As I've grown the company, I now have about 30 virtuals and 30 local team members. So all of the local people, I started with them doing these departments. As some of my Philly team has grown and dominated all the basics, I've added also them to departments. We have some that have thicker accents that I do not have on the phone, and then others that are learning. The big challenge is learning the jargon for the landscape industry. They have hardly any grass in the Philippines, so all of that was new and foreign to them, every bit of it. And so we did intensive training on that, intensive training on all the Augusta systems, and some communication from Mike as well on how the company got started. I need to inspire these people. I need to sell Augusta to them every day. I need to help them to love and care and serve the owners as well as their thousands of customers. With 150 locations, we're offering so many things to the customers, encouraging the franchisees to commit to simpler services so we can serve them well. So now the franchisees are getting served fast. The key thing is that we're better than last year. And I've implemented one-on-ones, which, as I have had all these things to do myself all these years, I've had to divide my role in many ways, everything I do, and then hand them off. So the goal is for every person at Command Center to move up in the company. They need to replicate themselves. I can't have anything dependent on one person in case they're sick or on vacation or go out. So every lead of every department has to replicate themselves in every person on their team. And so even the phone department has a full team. The return call from Max, from the calls in the night, they have a full phone team. All of those customers get called back right away. And that gives us more customers. We've added instant quotes where customers can pick the size of their lawn on the website and be able to choose a service right then. And then we get in touch with them. We get their credit card on file. There's automations we've built to do that organically so that there's no human interaction. A lot of people in the middle class, working people, they don't want to mow their grass. They want to have weekends with their family. And so the most precious commodity is time. And that's what we're giving back to them by offering them services. So the phone team has learned to offer, and it's not really selling so much, is because the customer is actually calling for the service, but we try to encourage them to take other services, such as if they have mowing, to try to get them on treatments and offer them cleanups and such. And some do landscaping projects as well. We have a lot of franchisees on the East Coast and in places where there's snow. So we have a snow department to help them run their crews. So there's a basic service, what we call, which I'll go into some other episode. And then we have full service, where we do all tasks for our franchisees. Our solo models are given very basic services until they come into the growth model, and then they have the opportunity to have all of these departments at their disposal on an a la carte menu, where they don't have to have everything. And during the winter months, they can take a lot of the task back. We have built service areas. We've built, and the service areas are updated every month, and the franchisees can shift. They can work with other franchisees who are right up against their territory. The brand awareness is huge from our media team, from the turnarounds Mike does. Mike has had to build systems and also itemize what he does and hand that off to others, which I will go into more detail at another episode, explaining all of that. So the purpose of this video is to show the growth and how growth sucks cash, how you fail, and how you fail. You must fail because that is the only way you learn and build a better system. I look at us as partners with the franchisees. They've experienced many things before they came to Augusta. Some of them did have office staff, and I have set up some meetings to meet with some of them each month to teach me what they did, what processes they worked well, what is causing the bottlenecks, what causes mistakes at Command Center and yellow slips. I go through them. If it's a yellow slip, a real yellow slip and legit, we're going to pay the franchisee back for maybe an estimate that we messed up. We're going to give a credit for time. We're going to give the money back if we've made mistakes and it costs the franchisee money. And we've built systems to get the invoicing better, to charge their Command Center bill at a certain time of the month, and then their franchisee fee at another part of the month, so that they don't have a large amount of money coming out of their account at one time of each month. I can't even tell you all the changes that we've made, but the goal is, in your business and in my business, is to personally grow in leadership. There are seasons of leadership. I'll also talk about as we go through time and in other episodes, but the way I led before does not work now. So a lot of the task and a lot of the time that I spend now is on one-on-ones. When you have 60 employees, it takes a lot of time. They have a Calendly link. They set it up. I have my 1st to the 15th of every month is all the locals. And then the 15th to the 30th, 31st of each month are all the Philippine teams. They schedule them. I meet up with them for 30 minutes. Every year, every one-on-one, every month, I switch up the questions. How can I serve you better? Did you get any yellow slips this month? Do you have any suggestions that from your training, your original training, and things you see in the company that we could make better? If I have all the departments, I go over every department that we're in. Do I need to take them out of a department, shift them to another? Is their load too heavy? Do I need to bring more training in? Does their lead need to bring new people into that department and train them? It's like a chess game. It's shifting people around, and that is my main task right now, as well as the one-on-ones, which these different questions bring different things out of them. So I connect on a personal level. I ask them where they're struggling and give them pointers. I do my best to inspire and lead. As a company grows, you can't have team meetings. Number one, I can't have team meetings in person, in our office even, because I have to have somebody on the phones all the time. So I used to be able to have team meetings in person, leave half people on phones, and half people were having a live meeting. As we went along, I started counting the cost for a 15-minute meeting for that many people to be in there, and I'm paying them for those 15 meetings. It's outrageously expensive. And because we don't charge a large price to the franchisees, I couldn't justify that cost. So now I do a video every week. I take feedback from the team. I have an app in my phone that every time I get feedback from people, franchisees, what I need to talk about, what I need to inspire the team to do better, what I see across the board is a weakness. And I have these meetings, they're videoed, and then I have what's called a global chat for the team members, and I post it on there for them to see once a week. It's mandatory that they do watch that. And I do check in the background who has put an emoji on there that they've seen it, and as well as the one-on-ones are mandatory. If you don't connect with me, I am not able to hear your frustrations, hear you have trouble with. Who do you sit by? I don't let anybody have a spot that they can call their own. They need to pick up all their items at the end of the day. If you've read the book, The Toyota Way, you see that there is a process that you can use where there's no paper, there's no personal junk, all those things, accoutrements and schlock, I call it, all over their desk. They need to remove all personal items at the end of each day, because guess what? Tomorrow they might be at another desk. I move strong people with weaker people so that they can help serve, make sure they're skilled on the phone. I'll take a very skilled person on the phone who is very good at de-escalating difficult situations, put them with somebody else so they could just hear them. By osmosis, we all learn, we all get better. Humility, being teachable is very important at Augusta. We run a lean operation. I only offer them coffee, and even that, like the cost of that is huge to me. I'm supposed to make Command profitable. That's extremely difficult to do, almost impossible, because you have all these trainees. I brought on 45 new people this season, and we put up a big banner called Crushing the Rush, and I prepared for it. And that part has been a smashing success. Every franchisee gets their estimates out quickly. So what you want to remember is you learn from the mistakes. You learn from the failures. What you did last year is not going to work this year. What brought you from $1 million is not going to take you to 10 million. So I try to think big picture all the time. I try to run everything through the filter of, if I had 1,000 locations, could I do an anomaly? Could I do a one-off thing for a franchisee? 100%. But if I have 5 locations, am I going to remember that? No way. Every franchisee has a wiki. We have systems they have to work in. They don't have to use Command Center, and some of them choose not to because they are too far out of the system. And let me remind that that's why people join the franchise, was to have the systems, to have the procedures. It works. It works for our corporate locations, who are the guinea pigs, and we implement them for them. If they work, we introduce them to the franchisees, and these owners can grow the way we did, be successful the way we did. I am now taking Command Center to a higher level. I'm thinking higher level. I'm implementing things down the line, thinking of 1,000 locations. I will continue to add software. So many of these things that we're bringing into Copilot will help us serve our owners better. And we coach the franchisees. We make videos on our processes, everything we're doing in Copilot. We had Service Autopilot videos. We became the support people for the franchisees because the customer service got really bad at Service Autopilot. Just as Mike purchased Anytime Fitness to learn the franchise model before, I dig into training on virtual team members. I have put in place this past month a way to facilitate good culture between the foreigners, the people that are off-site, with the team members. How do you do that? You create multiple ways to tie in the team by contests. I have a book of the month where if they read the book of the month and give me 3 things they glean from it, they get $50. 2 things. It gives them something to do to make extra money, and it lets me know who is really wanting to personally grow and to change and to become better at their jobs. And if I didn't see who was in the contest, I would 100% know who was in the contest or who was listening to the content, trying to grow outside of work personally. because I see a change in what they're doing in their work. So I will continue to pay astronomical $50, and I try to inspire them with books of other startups. Sam Walton, how did Amazon get started? How did Nike get started? And inspire them with these simpler things, and then move them on to more customer service centric books. And as I said, I'm delving into everything that makes the virtual team better, everything that makes them more cohesive team, which we've done well. The one-on-ones where I sell myself, I sell the team, I sell Augusta. I try to make them care for the franchisees. And that is my ultimate goal, is to serve the franchisees as they serve their customers and help them grow and scale and make a lot of money. I hope this has been helpful for you. Year over year, we get better. We're going to get better and better over time with feedback from our owners. We have bigger companies buying in now, which also makes me have to pivot and change to serve them as differently than we're serving those that are just starting a location from scratch. Maybe the owner has no experience, and then serving these bigger companies is completely different. So I'll share more later of my original position at Augusta and how I've grown over time and how I can relate to the franchisees to best serve them. I hope you have an amazing day and keep pressing on. And remember that it grinds, they grind, we grind. And someday you'll be very profitable. You'll be running a great company, and people will say, oh, you were lucky. No, you weren't lucky. You did the deep work in your personal self, and you did everything it took to be a great leader. And good luck, everybody. Have a great day.